The kind of people that I'm attracted to are the kind of people that wouldn't be main characters.
Hmm.
I don't like main character energy.
Hello, hello. You're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm your host, Brittany Luce, and today I present to you one of my favorite comedians, Julio Torres. You may have seen his comedy special.
I went to the zoo recently, and I was very underwhelmed by the silhouettes.
Or his brainchild, Los Espookies, on HBO.
Unos a los spookies.
Me? Hey guys. Pretty spooky day today, huh?
Or maybe you've even seen his hand acting on Instagram. Any way you slice it, you're gonna wanna stick around for this conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. Julio, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so good to meet you.
Good, so good to meet you too.
So I am really excited to be talking to you today because I love Los Espookies. I love your comedy.
Oh, thank you.
For listeners who don't know, can you explain the premise of Los Espookies?
Los Spookies is a show about a group of friends who engineer horror experiences for clients that want to deceive people. So think about like Scooby-Doo, but in reverse. They're not solving mysteries, they're creating them. But also, the tone of the show is very rooted in magical realism. So there's a lot of flourishes that and texture that just sort of goes unexplained.
I really, really love like how the show has this like very handmade feel. I'm glad you brought up
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo because that's like how I feel when watching it. It feels like
Mhm.
a magical realism Scooby-Doo in reverse, as you describe. But also it's also like pretty much like a bilingual comedy,
Yeah.
which is becoming
yeah.
more and more common, like sort of in
It
like
is, yeah.
mainstream Hollywood TV. But I love the fact that the show like doesn't explain things to viewers who are watching. Like, just there's all these sort of like little jokes that happen. That's sort of like if you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. I don't speak Spanish, but my husband does, and so
Yeah.
he'll explain things to me if I don't get them. But I wonder, like, do you feel like your comedy is different in Spanish than it is in English?
I don't think so. I think that what I'm attracted to, which is like these observations and like the absurd and the surreal, I think that they play in both languages because I think
Mhm.
that a lot of the humor of the show and my humor and Fred's humor and Anna's humor is
Mhm.
not so much about like specific like wordplay. It's
Mhm.
sort of like the visuals and the situations and the way that people behave.
Also, it's sometimes just very broad and very silly. Like silly
Yeah,
things happen all of the time, and I think
very.
that's something that
It can
like
be like a refreshingly dumb show in in a good way. A refreshingly like oh, this is just like silly and like it feels like watching a cartoon.
Something that I noticed from watching Los Spookies and also from watching your stand-up special from 2019, My Favorite Shapes, I feel like there's this theme of like focusing on things that are overlooked in a sense.
Mhm.
Like, when you're watching a film or a television show, you're focusing typically on maybe the scene or on the actors' faces. I feel like you're always zooming in to kind of catch these little details that kind of add a specificity to your humor, that I think is really rich. Is my read of that like vibing with you? And if so, like why do those things
Yeah.
fascinate
I
you?
mean, it's not a deliberate choice. It's like
Uh,
what ends up happening. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was always very into like secondary characters, or just like parts, or like I would be into like things that weren't supposed to be the focus.
mhm.
Always like a little off center, and I think that I don't know, like the kind of people that I'm attracted to are the kind of people that wouldn't be main characters.
Hmm.
I don't like main character energy.
Energy.
Yeah,
Something that I love watching the show is that even though within the world of the show, the characters, like the people that are meant to be afraid, they're genuinely afraid.
they are.
They
They believe it. They buy
believe.
into it. Yeah,
They absolutely buy into it.
yeah,
But I love, me as a viewer, I can see like the strings. I can see the paint.
yeah,
I can see these really
yeah,
beautifully paper mache
yeah.
like objects. You know, your mother is an architect and designer, your father is a civil engineer. And design is definitely a part of their lives and how they see the world.
Yeah.
You now have this really beautifully designed television show. Like I said, just feels like a little jewel.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, how did your parents' experiences and the way that they sort of see the world, how did that inform your sensibilities with regard to
Oh,
working with objects like that?
it's a hugely influential. I was always around like things that were visually stimulating,
Hmm.
and very deliberate. And both of my parents have a really sharp eye for reading people through their homes,
Hmm.
reading people through like the kind of person that they are based on the kind of furniture that they have, the kind of person that they are based on like what kind of remodel they want. Uh, like there was this because El Salvador is like can be like very lawless in terms of like what you can do construction wise.
Mm.
So I remember hearing of this woman who had like a backyard, and she kept like making expansions to her home to the point where like the pool that was in the backyard became an indoor pool. Because she just kept expand because it's like her she didn't see value in outdoor space. She didn't see value in like nature or having like
Mm.
trees or a patch of grass. So
Hmm.
like it's like this mentality of like the bigger my house, the more successful I seem,
Hmm.
right? And it's and yeah, that's such a personality type of like and like little things like that always stayed with me. Or like a friend of mine who's like very astute, his name's Max, he posted something about how he was rewatching The Sopranos
Uh-huh.
and how Tony Soprano's bed frame was so big that it partly obstructed the painting behind them.
Yes. That's such a good
It's
call out. I never
such a
noticed
good
that.
detail. It's such a brilliant detail of like, oh yeah, they're just like buying big stuff. They're not measuring whether or not it fits. They're just like buying stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's like big important guy has big painting, has like big bed. Never mind that they don't fit.
So that makes me think about your character, the character you play on Los Spookies, Andres. And
Yeah.
he's like this basically wealthy
Mm-hmm.
chocolate heir who's
Mm-hmm.
now, been down on his luck and he has to rely on the help of his friends. And I wonder, like, Andres is such a rich character. You play him so well. He's moved from this interior space of like his this blue bedroom. Blue is like his color. This
Yeah.
beautiful aqua bedroom that's very rococo. Like if you were like, "Hey, this is
Yes.
a room
It's
from Versailles," I would
decadent.
be like,
Yeah.
"Absolutely."
Yeah.
What is it like to play a character that has such a specific way of showing up in the world? Specifically, a character that seems to expect comfort at every turn. In this moment where I feel like everybody feels at the very least a little uncomfortable all of the time.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite kind of people to witness, which is like a difficult, very particular person.
Uh-huh.
I am attracted to very like difficult and unflexible people who are just like hyper focused on one thing and are just sort of like myopic and like have a hard time seeing the world around them beyond their like the thing that they're focusing on.
Mm.
And so Andres is like a combination of that and like also I grew up around people that were like very wealthy,
Mm.
and also I feel like the content like soap operas and telenovelas are obsessed with the wealthy too.
Yeah.
Those portrayals always like fascinated me.
I mean, I didn't even make that connection, but it's so that I see so much of that in the way
Yeah.
that Andres like moves through the world. I think about this one specific scene from the second season where he's in the grocery store, like completely. What does he say? He says something about how he was like he couldn't believe that there was food sold there because he feels like a grocery store is the food from restaurants that's been deconstructed and
Yeah,
hidden.
it's like he's never fathomed buying ingredients. He has never I think he had never seen like a sack of sugar. Like he's coming at it from like he can only see the world from where he's standing. So like from where he's standing, he's only seen prepared food. So for him to see a grocery store, it's like, wait, so you took the food that I normally have and then you deconstructed it and now you're selling that? Like he can't fathom that life functions the other way around.
Okay, so like you're obviously a very industrious person. You've got this incredible career. You work very hard. I think that's very evident. Oh, is there something that's kind of delicious about playing a
Oh
character like
yeah,
Andres?
completely. Completely. Yeah, there's something very liberating about just like not caring about anyone else. And like that is just sort of like he's sort of like the dark side of me. I think like my like different universe shadow self.
I mean, I think that's a really, I think he might be a lot of our shadow selves.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I've been thinking about a lot with Los Spookies is that it's set in an unnamed Latin American country. I noticed that it still has a very like the world of the show is still feels very real. It feels like there are very specific rules to it. Like it feels like there's an order to this like fantastical world that isn't really placed firmly in someplace in the like in our actual real world. I guess I'm wondering like what was behind that decision. What was behind the decision to like obviously have a very specific world in this show that's definitely located in Latin America, but to not give it a specific location.
Well, I really like portraying the way that things feel, not the way that things are. Not setting it in a specific country allowed us to come about it through a more like abstract and emotional place rather than needing to have like faithful reproductions or like faithful renditions of something. There's never like a wrong answer. There's never a wrong way. There's never a wrong accent. There's never a wrong sidewalk. There's never a wrong thing to what like so it's just like it's very liberating. And through that sort of like Tower of Babel, Latin American Tower of Babel, like of references and sensibilities, we found like a commonality that like feels universal. And it's like, and it really sounds like we're inventing something, but we're really not. I feel like cartoons do it all the time. Like Springfield is not set anywhere, as in like from The Simpsons.
Right.
But you understand that they are a middle-class American family in a mid-sized city. Sometimes the beach is a drive away. Sometimes it's snowing. Like, who cares, right? But it's like, those details are sort of besides the point. What matters is like showing what it's like to live in that context.
Yeah, I have one last question.
Yeah.
Your name on Instagram is Space Prince Julio. Space Prince of where?
I think of nowhere. Or like, you know what? I know, I think it's like sort of like traveling. Like I'm here for a little bit, but I don't know where I'll be next. Like, I feel like I like the idea of just like passing through.
I like that. It kind of makes me think like interdimensional, like different realms.
Yeah.
As opposed to
I like that.
Beyond geographical.
Yeah.
Julio, thank you so much for joining me today. It was so much fun to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks again to Julio Torres. The second season of his brainchild, Los Spookies, is out now on HBO.